All right, so what I want to do is kind of talk like a little intro and then see if you guys have anything you want to share, discuss, ask. We're getting to this like really pivotal place where, you know, your life is asking you to be more of yourself, right? And the best way to know thyself is to understand the law of meters. So I know I've taken you guys these places so many times over the years, but we're always going to circle back because your journey is literally a circle and you always come back to what it is that you need to integrate, uncover, add, subtract. So when we're looking at what we did all of last year with alchemy, we did a lot of realizing that as soon as we come down into separation, we are agreeing to embody and play this game because we knew we're God with amnesia. We're like, this is going to be easy. Okay. And then this world is like, you have like almost two opposing forces when you get here. You have, I am God, right? And you have a whole world basically surrounding you that has forgotten it's God. So by power of association, by power of influence, by adaptability, you take on the I am not story. Now, there's always going to be a middleman in that realm, because it's like, if you think about dark and light, right? Yin and yang, and because they're, let's just say, equally as strong, not because God is less strong than the Matrix, but you are in an infant body, right? And you may have all the secrets of the universe at your fingertips. You're still connected to the God mind, but you also have, no power in your body, really. You're dependent and you're influenced. So honestly, it's actually a fair game. When you look at what God is, which is everything, and then you look at separation, everything that separation says that I am not. So it's a fair game. And then what happens is within the 7-year cycle, your body adapts to whatever ideal identity, personalities that construct takes on. But all along, you're fighting against it. It's not like, you have, this good side of you and this bad side of you. You almost are constantly trying to reject one part of you. Okay. You're trying to figure out, you're trying to understand, you're learning, you're navigating, because maybe either one feels totally true, right? Maybe it doesn't feel true that you are God by the time you're 7, but you definitely don't feel like you're like, you shouldn't be allowed to be yourself either. So you haven't really owned either one of your aspects. And so what happens is you start to birth these middleman aspects, these aspects of like negotiated identities, of pursuing identities, of discovering detective identities. And these identities are birthed out of discord. Okay. They're birthed out of humiliation. They're birthed out of pain. They're birthed out of, like, let's take guilt. Okay. You would never, ever, 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 ever attract any guilty circumstance if you weren't first trying to act as the God within. You were first taking some sort of step to move into your power, to get something, to do something in the way that you felt truly your heart's desire was. When you were met with your own opposition of you can't have that, guilt, the middleman, the aspect of guilt, shows up and makes you feel bad for trying, for doing, for saying, for feeling, for having. Okay. And then what happens is, because that middleman that is not all good or all bad is the negotiator. See, this is where the aspects of like fight, flight, freeze, fawn, friend come in, is the way that you react to your own contradiction is going to be what you think your identity is. Because if you really understood who you are a God having a separated experience, you're a God with amnesia. But because every 7-year cycle, let's say you go all the way through a 7-year cycle, The 7th year is called mastery. So what you've done is you've mastered those 7 years. It does not mean that you've mastered your life. It means you've mastered those 7 years. And if you look up the term master, it basically means like leader. So you have just become like the full identity of your last 7 years. So what I have been doing this week is kind of like breaking apart I have like 6.5, 7-year cycles under my belt, which means there has been 6, 7 years of mastery full. I'm halfway in between, right? Or actually at the near. Next year will be my mastery of my 7th 7-year cycle. And so every 7 years that we don't figure this out, we tend to just build more aspects, more knowledge, more awareness of our separation, more awareness that we are God, more awareness that we're playing a game, but we don't actually get any further in the embodiment piece of ending the separation with ourselves. And this is where the spiritual journey can get you really lost, because the spiritual journey is nothing but middleman. It is nothing but the middleman, right? It's the alchemist. It's the, it's the tarot card reader. It's all these middlemen that are going to tell you which way you should go based on the moon, based on the sun, based on your, ancestry, based on all of these things. And ultimately, if you look at your first name, right? Not your last name, not your middle name, then it is literally what your name means is your divinity unpacked here. It is how you are playing God on this planet. It is the real you, right? So then we had the middle name and we had the last name. Well, now as soon as we had the last name, through epigenetics, we are inheriting all of our generational trauma, right? It's like, act like a walker, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is what your family says to you, or when they call you by your full name, you freeze. Okay. So it's like, when you think about what is in the way of you getting back to the fact that every day, all day, every day, all you say is, I'm just God who forgot. If you just said that all day, every day, anytime any guilty feeling would come or any other feeling would come, if you just literally answered every bad feeling, every good feeling with, I either am remembering I'm God in this moment, or right now I'm forgetting, you would start cutting out this middleman. Okay, because ultimately we studied aspects last year. We studied compartmentalizing of the mind. We've studied fight, flight, freeze, fawn, friend. We have literally unpacked all the split personalities of your fractal consciousness. And ultimately, God is mind. So if your mind is split into all of these different personalities that show up at different times to self-preserve the idea of yourself, you're never really going to get anywhere. And what I realized is a few months back, before some big breakthroughs started to happen with me, okay, what I was realizing is the more that I would stand in my God presence, the more all the aspects that I had built would gang up on my God presence. So it's like, imagine that there might be 7, 8, 9 of these aspects that I've developed: humiliation, guilt, self-pity, right? Like anger, aloneness, like you name it, I've got it. And when I would really push forward, I am God, like the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, like God with amnesia, quoting the scripture from either the lower me or the higher me, and how you're going to talk to God is based on who you're playing. Okay, notice, please God help me, you are calling forth God from lower self, or I am God, which is higher self. So when you take the divine prosperity or the spiritual prosperity webinar that I'm offering for free at the end of this August, I think it's the 18th we start, I am going to literally show you the difference between lack and prosperity based on viewpoint, which character you're playing. When you are commanding from the heaven, you are penetrating your subconscious mind and you are saying, I am God, and you're pushing it down into the mental plane, and the small you says, thank you, Jesus, for showing up and bringing me what I need, even though it's you. or you get disconnected from God. You got all these programs running in your subconscious mind that says you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, you're guilty, you're shameful, you're humiliated, you're worthless, you're ugly, you're old, right? And you've got to start at the mental plane from the smaller self, which is lack, separation. And you've got to try to move up through your subconscious mind to get to God. That's what the drip is. When you're dripping, barely enough money to pay the bills, barely enough help, barely enough awareness. That's the way that you are in your lack. That's the poverty mindset when you're looking from small me up to heaven. When you are looking from big me or higher self or the Christ within you, and you are saying, this is all just a game, cut, I'm not playing this program anymore. I will repeat with repetitive affirmations and hypnosis until my subconscious mind breaks, so that I may rain down on the small me. Okay, until you are in that prosperity mindset of God, the God mind, you will not be in your true inheritance of the child of God that you are. You will be working your way up, and it is going to feel like you are walking through hell. Okay, so if that's where you are, it's okay. That's where I've been the last 6 months, maybe longer, probably longer, and not knowing it because the awareness wasn't there. Probably maybe even the last 10 years, even though some of it was quite fun. You know, the idea of hell can be quite fun if your friends are there, right? So if you're looking at where you are right now, it's not so much of studying all the aspects. It's not so much of like where you are. If you can notice two direct oppositions in your consciousness, your awareness will begin to increase. Okay, so we're talking about the me, myself, and I for the last, as long as I've been teaching, right? It's like you think of it, the me is the small self. The myself is the body. Okay, the body hungers, the body needs, the body grief, the body loss, the body joy. Okay, the small me is the one who was brainwashed into separation to believe that I am not God, that I need God, that I better do right so I can get some of that stuff God has. Okay, so in separation, it's basically a lack of self-awareness of self, the true self. And then what happens is the middleman becomes the programming. The subconscious mind becomes what you, through self-awareness, believe about yourself in the subconscious. Now, in quantum fitness, I gave you the 4 aspects of consciousness, but they're basically one's awake and one's asleep. So we've got the unconscious, the subconscious, which is basically one soul. One subconscious is the one you're aware of, and this unconscious is the one you're not. Okay, when you see people act out behaviors around you that you don't identify with, that is your unconscious mind, because that's you. Now, if you go, oh, I see myself there, that's the subconscious. That's the recognizing part of your programming. The part of your programming that you actually recognize is you. Okay, then we have conscious, which is the desired version of you. It's the you want to be. It's the you you're working towards. It's the push, the motivation. Then you have the super consciousness, which is the God consciousness, which is the real you that is already complete, already done, already living in heaven on earth, already got all the things that you're asking for, already all of the needs are fulfilled. And so you can see that right there, our job is to make the unconscious subconscious. And most of our walk through the shadow of death experience that we're having here is nothing more than realizing that the unconscious is playing the nemesis in our world. The unconscious is playing the parts of us that we can't understand. We're asking for abundance. We're asking for healing. We're asking for a miracle. We're claiming it. We're staking it. We're meditating on it, and nothing's budging. That just means that you have had more practice and you have depressed, suppressed, oppressed a lot of your inner demons or inner battles or separated nature down so far below that you couldn't deal with it. And right when you start to walk into super consciousness or becoming conscious of your super consciousness, you're going to mix up that whole big pot, and it's going to feel like everything's getting worse, because that is actually what is happening, only because the sediment of the unconscious is rising, and you're starting to get conflicts happen. You're having money problems you've never had before. That illness is creeping back up. You know, like it seems like everybody's coming out of the woodwork. But the only reason why is you are raising your own dead. You, the super consciousness that is now awareness, because you have studied your ASS off for the past 20, 30 years on this stuff. So you're no dummy. You understand at a logical linear experience that you are God, but you have not staked the claim, and you have not gotten that program to submit to the God within you. And so everything that we're going to be doing for the whole rest of this year is embodiment work, right? You got to start embodying this. Otherwise, it's going to get worse. Because when you say, I am God, and you got 7, 8, 9 aspects going, oh no, honey, we are self-pity, we are guilty, we are shameful, we are humiliation. They will act like the 7 devils that will come into your clean house and take over. So this is why it gets really like a war that takes hold. And basically, our job is to get so super conscious and so present that we just keep affirming on top of the guilt. I'm not guilty, I'm God. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Okay, sin, I separated from my truth. Just for a moment, I forgot. All is forgiven when you stake your claim. And you have to keep on it, and you have to keep on it, and you have to keep on it. Because the thing is like I've noticed myself over the last 8, 9 months is I'll get to this place where I'm literally in the highest high, and bottom will drop out of something, or someone will show up in my life, and I question it. Am I doing something wrong? Should I not be saying I'm God? Is this too forward of me? And then the humiliation comes back like, I'm not God, or I wouldn't be manifesting this. But all that happened is I am raising my consciousness so high that I am resurrecting first the dead within me that has to know who I am. Okay. And this is why, like, Jesus was met with 2 angels to remove the rock from the tomb, because it's going to take all of this super consciousness within you in order for you to get out of that tomb and live as a resurrected Christ within. Now, I said in last week's class that this holographic experience is not biblically religious. It's just a hologram of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And the Old Testament, basically, we were all guilty by association of the Adam and Eve story. This is why you de-ascend. Okay, this is why you become the I am not, because you are pushed down into the mental world of separation. All the Adam and Eve's running around that have literally done wrong and have separated from their super consciousness that want you to believe that you are too. And this is no different than you getting good news and your friends not clapping for you. This is the same as you having an amazing manifestation and the people that you think you love are not happy for you because they are running the Adam and Eve program. We're separated. You should be separated too. Okay. So this Adam and Eve game is the game of separation. It's the game of mental focus, which means that if I want to get to God, I have to do it through a mental component, which means I have to pray, beg, I have to give my life to Christ. I have to, be small and humble and weak. And I have to pray that God hears me from a mental plane, because you know what? I am guilty by association. And so when you begin to awaken into your Christ consciousness, you start to go, hold on a second, there's two games here. That First Testament looks rough. Like if you look at what they went through, holy Moses, right? Like, but it's all metaphor of the game that we're playing here. And because you have free will and free choice, right? Like the number 5 basically stands for chaos and change and choice, which is the 5th dimension, which is the New Testament, which means that you can choose the Christ within, but there's 12 factors of the mind that you're going to have to submit to you. Okay. 12 factors of your mind that you're going to have to get to submit with you. And we're going to teach those in these upcoming classes so that you can embody each one. Now, how this is represented in the Bible is 12 disciples. Notice Judas. Okay. Now, again, it's all perfect harmonics. So yes. Okay. Judas, you sold him out, right? You sold Jesus out, but Judas represents your money line. Judas represents how you feel about money. What you would, have you ever sold your own Christ for some money? I know you have, because I have. You'd be feeling all good and all this, and you'd be feeling almighty, and all of a sudden that bill comes in that you don't have. You sell out your Christ first to get that bill paid. You go right back into the mental world and you don't even remember Christ exists, and you're trying to figure out how to pay a bill. That's your Judas. Okay. And that's the one I've been battling with, because it's all, you know, when Judas first joined the pack there, it was all fun and games and he was managing the money, wasn't he? So when you look at each disciple, it represents a different aspect of the 12 levels of mind that you are here to get submitted into remembering that you are. And then you look at Simon Peter, right? Like if you watch the story of The Chosen, his character is very portrayed as this kind of know-it-all, controlling guy with anger issues. Any part of you like that? Right? Okay. How do you feel about your husband sometimes? Or how do you feel about your students sometimes? Okay. And you have a Christ within you. And at one point, Jesus literally had to say, "Get behind me, Satan," to Peter, because he was acting like it. So these 12 aspects of your mind they're not evil. They're just disassociated. They're separated. They don't realize that they are the Christ within. They don't realize that that control issue is keeping them from remembering. They don't realize that that greed of money or survival instinct that's within them, that's from the Adam and Eve program, is separating from their Christ consciousness. They don't get that idea. So you want to know the 12 aspects of your mind, study the 12 disciples. That's why they all have stories. Okay, because this is a game and we are in a new game. And so if you are not choosing the Christ resurrection within, okay, the cross represents crossing out, crossing over, right? It's like we all going to die on the cross. We're all going to have to integrate the Judas and integrate the Mary and integrate all of these aspects within us. But if we don't realize that we have these parts, then we're going to fall asleep every time one of them shows up. And it's going to feel like 10 steps forward and 10 steps back. This is why it's so important for you to recognize when you're in a guilt program, recognize when you are in shame, recognize when you're angry, recognize when you feel humiliated, recognize when you feel unworthy, and then have a scripture or a command or an affirmation waiting. And you say it 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 until guilt goes, okay, there's nothing for me to guilt act out now. Because if you act out the guilt, if you act out the control, if you act out the anger, if you act out the shame, if you act out the manipulation, you are running the program. You, free will, choice. You're saying, well, I feel guilty now, so now I need to go apologize. As soon as you go apologize, you just ran the program again. What you want to say is, oh, guilt showed up. Hello. Oh, you're telling me I'm not God? I just forgot. And then you have an affirmation waiting that you are going to drill into that subconscious program until that subconscious says, uncle. And if you can't find it, you sit in stillness. First, seek the kingdom of heaven. Be still and know that I am God until you are filled with God energy. You sit there and receive. You fill your cup. Because the only reason you're acting out in guilt or shame or lack is because you feel empty. And as soon as you feel empty, right, you can't hear God. So you're going to have to go get God instead of try to go get a solution to help heal the guilt. Because if you try to get out there in that physical reality, now you're in the mental world of Adam and Eve again. And you will know, because I have experience in this, that this isn't a one-time like love story like the New Testament is. It's like, okay, you know, once he resurrects, it's a done deal. No, you're going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between each game until you get so tired of it that you begin to get your disciples to submit. Okay. And it wasn't until the resurrection where his disciples still did not believe in him. He had to blind Paul. Okay. He had to blind Paul to get Paul to submit. So if you feel blinded in certain areas, like you don't have answers, you don't know what to do, you've been blinded by the Christ within you. All right. And then notice what actually got them to all remember was the speaking in tongues. Okay. God filled them all with that word that everybody would hear. Now, pretty much everyone in my classes has their light language. Use it. All right. Use it and remember. Look at that word. Put yourself back together. You're going to have to do this hundreds of times a day. Your only purpose right now. Some of you have asked me during our mentor sessions this week, because again, that conflicted. You're in this game, you're in this game, you're in this game, you're in this game. You kind of knew your purpose in Adam and Eve, but you don't know your purpose in Christ yet. All right. And so you're asking me, I don't know what my purpose is. Your only purpose right now is to get all of your programs submitted to the God within you. Submitted in the God within you. So that you may have the provider, protector, fixer, builder within you in your own kingdom. Because the kingdom of hell and the kingdom of heaven are a state of mind. All right. We don't need to study chakras. We don't need to study aspects. We just need to know, am I asking God for help or am I commanding God through myself? You'll know exactly which place. If you're asking God's mercy, a miracle, get this bill paid, I won't ask for anything else, you are playing Adam and Eve. If you are like, hold on a second, I'm done with this guilt. Be still and know that I am God. You take power back. You get a couple scriptures or a couple of affirmations that you create that have strong godly intention within them that you are no separation. One that has helped me is I fell asleep, forgot I was God. Believe it or not, that helps me. I just fell asleep. This guilt made me fall asleep. I forgive myself for falling asleep. Okay. Because as soon as I ask for forgiveness, it is done. I accept that I fell asleep, and now I put myself back into that power position. It's almost like if you've ever been tired driving. Okay? How many times have you been driving? You're like, right? You're like, I need to wake up. Because you start to drift, and you know you're going to die if you fall asleep. So you got to keep yourself awake. That's the purpose of affirmations that you have locked and loaded. You should have Post-its all over your house. Okay, on your mirror, anywhere that is automatic for you. Anywhere you go into autopilot, you should have a note from your higher self, right? You need to wake up right now. Now, this is going to challenge your belief systems. So yes, you may have to work through daddy issues or God issues or whatever issues you have, but that should be your entire world right now, which means you're here to end the program. No one can do this for you. No new spiritual awareness class will do this for you. The best thing you can do is find a handful of scriptures that match the opposition that you're facing, that you read instead of acting out in that anger, acting out in that guilt, acting out in that separation. You do that instead until you reach a state of peace within the body. And if nothing shows up, you do nothing. You will see something from God show up within 3 days, but you're going to have to be patient. And we don't like patience. So what do we do instead in our class? We practice, prepare, and play. We practice the new affirmation, which means, okay, I'm God. I got to act like it. I got to clean my house. I got to make my bed in the morning. I got to stop gossiping. I got to stop, talking about this. I got to stop worrying about money. All right. So there's going to be something that you're going to have to physically do. And if it's in your best interest to find out who is discipled against your own Christ within you, so that you may get some light language in them. If all you have in that moment, you can't find an affirmation, and you just focus on God and you start speaking in your own light language, it's going to break that affirmation. Because the only reason the subconscious will not give is because you keep going with it. You keep proving it right. Now, your life will prove. Your life will prove over and over and over again that you are not God. Because you've been, how many 7-year cycles you've been practicing it? So you can't get upset when the red carpet is not rolled out for you yet. Okay, because every single thing in your physical reality is going to be a part of those aspects. There's going to be angry people. There's going to be shameful people. There's going to be humiliating people. And I don't mean humiliation walking around. I mean characters that are in your life that are cued to humiliate you, because that's their job. You forgot about that, but they just came into your life to show you what you are or what's in the way of your Christ. Because the full resurrection happens when the soul, the mind, and the body are all one, which means the soul programs are all saying, I am God. This is when you can resurrect the dead and feed the sick, and you have infinite over opulence of a lifestyle, which means that you are not here to want. If God feeds the birds and he doesn't feed you, right? Have you ever thought about that? Do you think these animals running around here ever not want? They might go through national disasters, but sometimes those national disasters actually make more of an abundance of food for them. Okay? So it's like, if we are not as worthy as the squirrels outside that have a full tummy, what do we believe in our subconscious mind? Because none of it's you. This is why it hurts so much when negative energy hits your body, because it's such a lie. So let's break apart believe, right? Belief. We'll know that be is a state. It's the representation of what you believe in any moment about yourself, the beingness. Okay, the beingness is the program. It's feminine. Live or live is the masculine, acting out the program. Okay, so if you're acting out guilt, if you're acting out shame, even if you're apologetic, that's acting it out. Okay, you freeze, you're acting it out. So what you're going to need the most in the coming months, and maybe these 2 full moons are going to help, I don't know, is you're going to have to get present. Okay, because in your presence, you're going to feel the discord of negative emotion, and you're going to be able to be still and know that you are God. That is the only action that you should be taking. I don't care how dire, I don't care how 911 is coming in. All right. If you took 1 minute, let's say someone drops dead on the floor from a heart attack, and immediately you go into help me, God, help me, God. You're better off taking 1 minute and remembering you are God, because in that 1 minute, you might be able to heal that person instead of calling an ambulance. You see, 1 minute is infinite time in the heavens. But if you can't take 1 minute to pause before you react, before you respond, then what you're doing is you're saying what's in your subconscious mind is true, because you have free will and you have choice here. Okay, so does that make sense to everyone? Does anybody have any questions on that? I have like a weird hair in my mouth. Okay, anybody have anything that they want to add, or if they need any help with this? This is the game I've been playing by myself for the past year now. And I can't tell you how many times a day that I am literally stopping in my own tracks and gathering myself and remembering who the hell I am, because this is so intoxicating here, and it feels so real, and it feels so dire. Now, one of the last dragons you're going to face before you exit the matrix is time. It's going to feel like time is running out. It's going to feel like you're running out of money before you run out of month. It's going to feel like you got no more time to sit and know that I am God. It's going to feel like you're going to have to build your kingdom here because the kingdom doesn't exist. And I'm going to tell you, the time dragon that I have been facing has been the scariest one. Because when you feel like your time is running out, you got to face all those loss programs, those failure programs, those maybe I'm not God, maybe I'm full of it, maybe everybody else is God, but me, I need some help. You become Judas. All of a sudden you sell your kidney. Like you literally are selling yourself to get some money because the time is running out. All right. And it's very hard to ask for help. And it's very hard to let your guard down. It's very hard to go without. It's very hard to be blind. But if you notice what each disciple went through to get to that place where they could actually write about their particular factor of each level of the mind, they all had to go through some pretty scary stuff that they had to face. You know, I mean, how would it feel to, you know, lose a child or not have Jesus heal you when you're one of his disciples, right? Well, that's your self-pity. Well, everybody except me. I know I had that one. So you're going to have to sit with this, and you're going to have to get to know these parts of yourself that get activated when your programs are launched. Now, when your programs are launched, it's going to be when you're in lack. Anytime you are in lack, which means you're going to have to watch your blood sugar. You're going to have to watch your energy levels. You're going to have to watch the energy that's getting sucked out of the room by your mother-in-law. You're going to have to watch the obligation and the commitments that you have agreed to, because these are all going to deplete you. And as soon as you get depleted, you're going to be in lack. You're going to forget. You're going to go to sleep, and there's going to be a program right there. Because a lot of us are overgivers. We're over-nurturers. We're people pleasers. And we've worked on it a little bit. And so anger, you can't take advantage of me, Miss Boundary has shown up. But if you're in a boundary saying, I'm speaking my truth, guess what? You run in a program, because ultimately you could say nothing and know that you are God, and know that if you just let this storm pass, it would abundantly feed you, just like a big rainstorm. All right. So does anybody have anything they want to add, share, ask? It's a good time, because the heat is on, and some of you are facing your time drag because you can't operate the way you've operated before. You can't hustle. You can't grind. You can't manipulate. You can't convince. You can't ask. There ain't nobody to ask. So you got to remember right now, this is all you got. Anybody have anything they want to ask, share? Dormant?
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, just sharing, because I had some quite intense work done with a channel, working with Arcturians and different races come in and did some work for me. And then since then I've really been in my power. Like it's shifted a lot of like big triggers for me would be doing like my tax return. And the 2 days after doing the healing, I sat and did 2 years of tax returns straight off. I'm done. Then again, it kind of came up, an echo came up. I got a threat with being taken to court for, in the UK, we have a thing called council tax. So you pay tax, but then you've got to pay council tax. And they've threatened me with court. So again, today I waited 2 weeks. They didn't get in touch. And I was like, right, I'm doing this today. And I managed to get all of my paperwork done, all of my bank statements, all of the stuff, bring it to the place. And there were triggers arising, but I kind of, I was able to, like, I go into sensory overload. If there's too much sound or too much noise, I'd start to go into fight, flight, or freeze. So when it was happening, I was just calling it out and saying to the lady I was working with, it was like, this is what happens to me. I'm panicking because of this, and it's okay. But, just if we could shut the door, if we could do that, and then I'll be able, and then I was being pulled out of alignment, and then going, no, actually, I'm in charge of this, and being pulled out of alignment, and I'm in charge. And then we worked together and got it resolved. And and so those financial demons of mine have really been big ones for me. So I resolved that. And then on my own physical journey, for the past, again, since this healing session, I've been getting up at 5-6 o'clock every morning, doing at least a half an hour to 40 minutes of really intense qigong, and then doing 3 or 4 hours of quite intense kung fu training. So sometimes pushing into 7 or 8 hours of training a day. So again, it's I've really stepped into my warrior. And I don't know if everyone saw the post I put in the group, but because it's kind of all expanded out of the meaning of my name. So Dermot Christopher Wilson Corky. Dermot means free man. Christopher is bearer of Christ. Wilson is son of the protector. And then Corky is a descendant of Icelandic Viking, which actually came from the name Thorkill. So it's Thor's pot or Thor's kiln. So the Thor's family. So free man, bearer of Christ, son of the protector, of the descendant of the gods. So all of this is coming, going, okay, yeah, this is who I am, and
this. Got to remember who you are, right? Exactly.
Yeah, and it's helped with balancing all of the different works I do together. I'm really finding my proper warrior stuff, just stepping in.
Let me ask you a question though, just because I think this is going to be good for all of us. So when you work with this channel, right, and then the Arcturians, who do you believe they are?
Well, they're so I have this beautiful little expression, which I'm believing more and more now, which is I am the entire universe experiencing itself through a singularity focal point known as Dermot. So I understand that it is an aspect of me coming through.
Right. So, but again, it goes perfect with this class, because when you call the Arcturians to help you, you are praying from the small self, bigger self, which is Arcturians, come and help me. Right. And so I just want you to know that that's where you were, where you are vibrating from when you got the channeled message, which is fine, but all we need is awareness right now. Okay. But ultimately, let's throw all your other names away and let's focus on your first name, because that's the name you gave yourself from heaven, free man. So if all you did is the rest of your days is say, free man, I'm a free man, I am a free man. Every time a conflict would happen, I'm a free man. I'm a free man, which means you don't need to investigate anything else, because in the examples you gave of your last name comes a lot of pain to earn that. So when you associate yourself with your last name, you are saying yes to generational trauma that you have to be responsible for. Now, you can clear out your entire bloodline with your first name. Okay. When we start digging too deep, we're going into lifetimes and lifetimes of this cellular memory of repression that, yes, maybe you are a warrior. Maybe, you were a Viking. But if you look at those stories, do you really want to associate, or do you want to just be a free man who has a kingdom of heaven within him? Okay. So the more you can focus on the affirmations of your first name in those times of fear, like nothing can happen to me. I'm a free man. I am. Whatever you put with I am is who you are. Now, when you are like, okay, I need to get this channel here and the Arcturians, please, and you feel empowered for 3 days, we know that circuit. We all feel better for 3-4 days when we get a blast from our higher consciousnesses. But what I want you to get to this point for this rest of this year together is that when you start to feel like you need help, remember you are the Arcturians, and sit in the stillness and command that part of you to be with you while you're doing this paperwork. Because the taxes and the money, all of this is the I am not slavery game. And as soon as you start to get into the I am, that slavery is going to tie a noose around your neck and start pulling. And this is where you stop and you say, I am a free man. I came here to be a free man. And it's not going to feel like you are a free man. It's not. That's why you have to affirm it and affirm it and affirm it and affirm it and affirm it. But if you're doing your Tai Chi and you're doing your martial arts to keep the demons away, they're just going to come in when you get tired or sick. So you need to be in that affirmation of programming throughout every day and every time. And when we forget, you guys, because we will, we're gonna go to the Adam and Eve game when those tax bills show up. Okay, it's gonna throw you into that game. That's when you do nothing. You go into the stillness. I don't care if you have to look up your name. I write notes to myself constantly from a higher place when I'm in that bliss, when I'm in that joy, when I'm in that abundance, when I'm in that prosperity. I'm like, oh, Jess needs to know this, right? And so then when I fall down, instead of please God help me, which is me from that Eve program asking for mercy because I am guilty and I am a slave. Yes, I am going to have some sort of miracle work through, because I mean, you can get blood out of a turnip, right? You're going to get some sort of, you're here online with us, which means you made it through. But did you walk through like a king? How you should have? No, not yet. This is the shift I want us to pay attention to right now, because what you're doing is great. But at the same time, there's a lot of steps that you're taking in the middleman. The middleman is the hours of Tai Chi. The middleman is the hours of Kung Fu. Now, if you spend 3 minutes affirming in Kung Fu, it's better than 7 hours. And then in that 7 hours, you are practicing, you are preparing, and you are playing as a free man. All right. See, that's what we do when we're not in meditation, is we practice the I am as if we are rolling out our own red carpet. And no, your reality is going to say, you are not enough. You are not going to make it through this. And we're going to have to call this bluff. Okay. I have called this bluff on 3 different levels, and every single time, the last hour, the 12th hour, at the last minute, right? If I go, ooh, and I play Judas and I go for the quick fix, I get the quick fix, which is just barely enough. But if I call my bluff and say, take the house, because I am a gift from God, which is my name, take it, then guess what? More than I need comes. I have proven this in 3 different big programs. But you have to get so sick and tired of barely getting by. Because see, Adam and Eve is always going to barely get by, even if you have money in the bank. See, if you got money in the bank, don't mean you're free. You got money in the bank, your wife might be telling you no. Your husband might be telling you no. Your body might be saying no. You can't get on an airplane. Your job might say you don't get the time off. So money does not necessarily equal your freedom. Your freedom is affirming the I am until your subconscious mind says, they won't run the program. I have to change this program. Because the only thing that changes your subconscious programs, which is making these tax bills come, the slavery program, is your action with it. If you step into your program like, I call your bluff, tax man, because I am a free man, you do it with grace, you do it with dignity, you do it with kindness, you do it with love. This is why I want you guys to study this show, The Chosen, not so that you believe in this idea of Christianity, so that you watch how Jesus shows up in very scary situations. And some of you are like, I don't want to get to the Christ. I don't want to die on the cross. No, it's a metaphor. You're not going to die on the cross if you get to the Christhood. If you get to your Christhood nature embodied, you own this planet, which means there's a note that I have sitting on my computer that says everything is mine. Everything is mine when I am God. Everything. That hill over there is mine. Don't mean I won't share it with who's living there, because I will, but it's mine. Because the kingdom of heaven is within me. So your nature right now Your only true purpose, I don't care if you're in between jobs or not sure what you're going to do next year, your only true purpose should be break these programs in the moment, in real time. And you're going to want to use your first name, not your last name. Because when you say your last name, you are saying yes to actually having to now clear all those generational programs that you don't have to be responsible for. And yet your last name might be cool as hell, but do you really want a Vikings reality? Because you know what? It's one cool thing to die in battle 200-300 years ago. It's bullshit to deal with what we have here. We don't get to die in honor anymore. Here, you know what we do? We go broke. You know what? We get sick. We don't get to fight for our country anymore. We get to be alone in our apartment with the lights off and no food. That is not even worth it. So you see, the battle is only in the minds. The unconscious mind and the superconscious mind are literally at the forefront right now. And who is going to win is how you react. And you're going to have to do this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times a day. And it is going to feel like this is not worth it at times. You're going to be like, is it so bad to play Judas? I mean, you know, is it so bad to pay Peter? It's not at times, because it took me a year. So obviously I caved many, many times this last year. But when you get so sick and tired of it, and when your time is running out and you start to have no choice, or at least you feel like you have no choice, it is because the God consciousness within you is saying no more. And so the areas where you were playing Judas or Peter or Mary in your shame, you will be fasted in those areas and you will not have the opportunity to play that. So it is in your best interest to cut out the middleman instead of God, please help me. Channel, please tell me who I am. Octurians, give me a healing to go right into your I am and stick with it and make it small, which means don't have so many affirmations in your head that you lose focus. Have a couple of key affirmations, some key scripture, some high vibrational light language on ready, like ready, ready, ready. You do nothing except your affirmation, right? Because if you can get to the God self and you can say, I am God, you don't have to ask for mercy. You are creator. You are the one who's going to tell taxman to turn around and walk away because he's on your land. What feels better? Okay, all I'm saying is you're going to get to this point, because I did. You're going to get to this point where you're just like, I'm done. But if you are not done, you are going to play one of those disciples every single time. Even though miracles are happening around you, you're going to hone in on the trouble. You're going to hone in on the bankruptcy, the money, tax bills, the lack, because that's what you're fixated on. If you study each disciple in the Bible, each one of them had a very linear program that they were running. Matthew with his logic, right? Logic. It's like you look at who wrote a lot of the Bible, Paul. He was literally trying to kill everyone who wanted to be with Christ before Christ blinded him and said, I like your passion. If you can do this to get people away from me, imagine what you could do for me. You don't need to be blinded here. So studying the disciples will help you study and know your aspects. All right. You do not need the Arcturians. The Arcturians are a fractal of your own superconsciousness. They don't, they are. And I know, because I've worked with them over the years. I've had them in your sessions. They are not to be not getting credit, but we are moving into the Christ game. And if we're going to play the Christ game, see, Adam and Eve need the Arcturians to come save us. But the Christ, that's above the Arcturians. You are creator. And you have just as much of this within you as you have the other game. It's what are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the separation and lack? Or are you going to feed the abundance within you? All right. So does that help? Because you're there, but you're still from that small place looking up, which means you're going to have to go through hell to just get peace again. I don't want that for you, Dermot. I want you to stand as a free man in every opportunity that tells you not to be. So if you look at your name that's going to be the opposition that you're always facing. Your first name is also going to be your greatest I am not. And this is what's going to be your greatest challenge. So if Dermot's truth of his I am is I am a free man, then he's going to manifest every single thing in the Adam and Eve game that tells him he's not. Until he takes ownership of his name and he creates affirmations and daily activities and routines and ways to show up and notes from his higher self all over his house, because those are the octarians in those notes. The channel that you paid or bartered with literally is you. But again, when we feel small and stuck and blocked and trapped and fearful, we are this small self and we're going up to Christ. We're going up to God. Please help me. When the Christ that is you is like, oh, you're a free man. But again, this is where you have to work on your belief systems. You can affirm this hundreds of times a day and you won't believe it. It's okay. You will not believe it because your subconscious mind has proof. It's got people in your life. It's got manifested issues happening right now that tell you you are not, but you're going to have to just say it over and over and over and over again. And I have like the analogies, those of you who came to my house for the retreat, I got 2 giant dogs, right? They're half mastiff and they're puppies. And I am working to get them to submit hundreds of times a day, and they know better. They know they're not supposed to be in the kitchen. They know they're not supposed to be in certain areas. And as soon as my back is turned, they in the kitchen. As soon as they see me see them, they get out the kitchen. You see what I mean? So it's like, it's not bad or good. It just is. It's like something you've done over and over again. You want to do over and over again. It's just a routine because they were allowed in the kitchen the first few months. And so that kitchen is theirs. And then when I realized that's not going to work for me with 2 mastiffs under my feet while I'm cooking, I had to make a new rule, get out the kitchen. But those first 2 months of being able to be in the kitchen is what's automatically programmed in them. And so they forget. They're not bad dogs. They forget because they were allowed. So you have been allowed to be the I am not for how many 7-year cycles? These dogs are not even a year old. They only had 2 months of being in the kitchen. And that's what they know more than not. They've had 4 months of not being in the kitchen and they don't remember. You see where I'm going with this? It's not good. It's not bad. Your subconscious mind is not against you. It's just going to run the program because that's who it believes you are. Okay. So this is very intense subject matter, but I know some of you, because I'm working with some of you in our mentorships, that shit is hitting the fan for you. And that ugly time monster is showing up and like 12th hour. And you're going to have to make a decision. Whether you're Adam and Eve and you're going to ask God for mercy, or you are the Christ within you who is going to command the kingdom of heaven to be birthed out of you. And I will say that we don't know what it's like to be the Christ, but do you really want to keep living with this Adam and Eve? Because it's getting crazy out there. There's like 27 genders now. You know, it's like, do you really want to play Adam and Eve in the book of Revelation right now? Because I don't. That's what you're going to have to deal with out there. If you say, you know, it's just easier for me to be a slave and just keep doing what I'm doing, then that's what you're going to have to agree with in order to be here. But the time is ticking because 5D is quickly going into 6D, and 6D is when the octarian within you starts to speak through you. You see, because 6D, time, space, and gravity are not, they're under your command. That's what 6D is. So 5D is where we practice the choice, the Christed consciousness, which is I am creator. This is also a good affirmation when shit's hitting the fan, is to say, I am creator, which means I'm creating this. Let me take a breath here and create something else, because you are a creator. Great affirmation for the middle of the day when you get a big fat bill in the mail. Hold on a second. I'm creator. This is just a program. Pause. Let me go back into my Christed self. Let me say my name. Okay. You guys, you need to watch Never Ending Story, right? He's chasing the nothing. He's chasing the nothing. He loses everything. He finally gets to the princess and she's like, call my name, right? You get to decide what this is. You get to make it up. right? We watched that at one of my retreats because it's relevant, right? Free guy. Notice how he got a focal point in his mind. He might be an NPC, but you know what? He's going to get what he wants, and he's not going to take any of it personally. He's going to lose everything and everyone for love. That's a relative movie right now. Okay? So keep in mind that you are free to choose the I am not of your name or the I am of your name. But you're going to have to get serious about you. And this being your universe and your creation. So I think that if you take everything you're doing, Dermot, and just simplify it, because the middleman is distracting when you're doing this and this and this and this. And yes, you're going to feel empowered because you just loaded yourself up with God consciousness over the last 5 days. But eventually that human body, those programs are just going to reboot and it's going to come on stronger. Because the Adam and Eve game is going to get you to submit. Eat from the tree of knowledge, which is the mental world that tells you that you're not God. It's going to get you to believe that somehow, some way, until you just stand in your authority and you're not going to believe it. It might take you 4 or 5 days before it even begins to feel normal, because none of this is going to feel normal. The Adam and Eve game feels normal. It feels like uncomfortable, but you know it. You know how to be a slave. You do. You don't know how to be creator in your own game yet. So it's going to feel uncomfortable. There is absolutely no dopamine in it. It is going to feel completely wrong. But this is why we have this non-duality class, because we get to do this together. So when you forget, we're here. When I forget, I'm here. And I have notes all over, literally everywhere. It's literally like a decoupage everywhere around. Oh, I got to remember, because I'm realizing that I'm at the end, and it's the hardest at the end, right? It's going to be when the problems get scarier, the time gets shorter, the problems get realer, and none of it's real. None of this is real. You are in a video game, you're in a hologram. That could be one of your affirmations. Hold on, cut. I don't want to play this game right now. I want to take a pause and decide who I'm playing as the actor of this story here. Because you are acting, and which means that whenever you decide you are, you're going to generate playmates and playgrounds out of the player. Which means that if I am not a free man, the people that I am going to photocopy out of my body that I get to play with are going to tell me I'm not a free man. The playground that I generate outside of my body is going to tell me I am not a free man. Because you're creating everyone and everything and every place and every situation from the archetype of either help me God or I am God. There's only 2 choices. And when we get lost in the middleman is when we get distracted. And we run the program, but it feels good. So stick with your 2 choices right now and just integrate it, integrate it, integrate it. And you don't believe it, eventually that belief system, be live, will begin to change. If you can interrupt the program with be still and know that I am God, or first seek the kingdom of heaven, you will begin to show up differently in your own story. It will feel like you're living someone else's life for a while, and that's okay. Everything says out of your mouth you won't believe, that's okay. You stick with it. Because you know what? For your first 7 years, you didn't believe anything anyone was telling you about you. You began to believe it because you had to. So, all right, now you have an opportunity to be born again. You are a new man. You are a new woman. You get to say what you are, but what you say is not going to feel what's normal. Because the first 7 years, you got sold that you are not God. And you did not believe it. That's why you had your terrible twos. That's why you had tantrums. That's why you manipulated. Because you refused to believe it until you submitted. So you have to do exactly the same thing again under your authority as you as the parent, as you are source, as you are God, and tell that inner child that you are God and you deserve everything here. Opulence is part of your birthright, which means you should have so much food, you got to give it away. You should have so much money, you got to give it away. You should have so much time that you can help everyone. Because from that perspective of reprogramming yourself and getting that I am not program submitted, this is the only way you're going to get there. All 12 of those disciples in your mind, or aspects, or lower vibrations, or disconnection parts. There's a reason why there's 12 astrological signs, because there's 12 disciples within you. So even though you aren't Taurus, you Taurus. Even though you aren't Gemini, you Gemini. Part of you is, you see? So you don't even have to go there. This is why in Christianity, it's like everything is blasphemy except Christ. Don't look at anything. Don't even look at crystals, because that's a middleman. And I always thought, well, that's racist. You know, I'm like, you're messing with my fun stuff. But you know what? Ultimately, where I am right now is I'm not paying attention to nothing except the Christ within me, because everything that is not the Christ within me is a distraction. And I'm going to tell you, when you start running out of time, you're going to throw away the channel. You're going to go Arcturian who, and you're going to go right to Christ, which is you, the crystalline source energy that is creator, that is ready to embody in your human vessel right now. You start to feel empty. You sit down, you fill your body with light. You command source to fill your body with light before you eat, before you spend, before you do anything. You feel the peace within you before you go back out to the game, because you're going to be in this game and you're going to get back and forth until you hold your position and you get those puppies to submit, because eventually they're not going to go in the kitchen anymore, but I'm going to have to stay on it longer than they were allowed to do it. So hey, who knows, you might have to do this for a year, but 1 year of affirming, of pausing the game, of stopping the program is going to get you heaven on earth the rest of your years. So it's worth it. It really is, especially if you've gotten this far, because if you got this far, you can't go back. You realize you can't go back now. You know too much. It's not going to feel comfortable. You're not motivated by this game anymore. You're not motivated by hunger. You're not motivated by these things anymore at all. You can't. So now you're going to be in this middle where you're going to go back and forth, but it's right here. It's not so extreme. All right. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. We have a fellowship group today. It's at 1 o'clock. It's in our private group. And again, this is put together so that we can all keep each other accountable. All right. This is not like where I'm teaching. This is literally sharing more information and hearing from you so that I can help you guys be in your I am. So the I am where you're rebuilding, you're submitting, is your cocoon. Okay. So caterpillar, fat, bloated, and terrified. Okay. You got the cocoon, be still and know that I am God. Affirm, 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 pause, practice, play, right? Repair. And the butterfly is where you are the free man. And once you reach that state, you will no longer go back and forth. You will literally be commanding matter from a spiritual place instead of matter asking spirituality for help. That's the difference between poverty and prosperity. And I'm learning that very slowly, but I'm getting it. So the fellowship is more about accountability and fellowship, because again, playmates on the playground right now that are outside of the matrix are important for you, because everyone in your reality that has an intimate connection with you is part of your program. And I have made sure that this fellowship ain't part of your program. Everyone in the fellowship is in a cocoon where they're going to remind you that it's okay to be in the cocoon. All right. So there's still time to join us if you haven't. The way you do it is you go to the Quantum Revolution page on Facebook, and there is like a sign up area, and it's at 1 o'clock. It's on Wednesdays. It's going to be for the rest of the year. It's only $150 for returning students. That means if you guys have ever done a tour with me, if you've ever taken a class with me, if you've ever done anything through Quantum Method or Quantum Revolution or TICA, which is my Transcendence International Consciousness Academy that I did way back in the day, you get in that group at that price. All right. Otherwise, it's like $300. It's not that much more. But again, it's just for our time for the teachers that we have teaching in there. And that keeps us, you know, That keeps us bound in this group for accountability and fellowship. That is the power of remembering. So we're going to act as the Post-it notes. We're going to share, because we're all going through this, but we're all going through a different storyline, and it all feels equally as scary. So it's like, I feel like my story is scary, and then I hear your story, Dream, and I'm like, damn, I'm glad I'm not doing that, right? I'm doing this over here, which feels terribly scary, but I'm not doing that, which feels even scarier. So again, now I can help you with your accountability, because I've gone through my own hell here, but we shouldn't be going through hell, guys. We shouldn't have, I mean, that's even part of the religious indoctrination. Oh, you got to go through hell to get to heaven. No. If I would have known what I know right now, 6 months ago, this is why I want to help you biohack this now, right now in this present moment. So you don't have to die on the cross. Okay, you can just cross over. Let me help you with that if you are ready. Otherwise, you're in this class. We're going to keep going for it. We're going to keep affirming it. We're going to keep showing up, and we're going to keep it non-duality, which means it ain't bad or good. It's just a choice. It is just a choice, and it is just a game. It is not real. The only thing that is real is your consciousness. That is it. And whichever consciousness is playing out is going to feel real. And so if you want to be more of yourself, you got to cut out the middleman. You got to cut out the projections and the showing up in the program to take your power back. You don't take your power back in the program. You lose your power in the program. You take your power back in the stillness. You do not take your power back by affirming, I have boundaries and I have rights. No, you just went into the program and said, I am not a free man, because you activated and acted it out. You said, no, thank you. I remember my name. My name means I am a gift from God, which means that I don't got to do nothing here except be myself. For so long, I thought I got to be everybody's gifts. My entire life was, I got to be the gift for everyone, or I don't exist. That was my Adam and Eve game. But my Christed game is, I'm a gift, take it or leave it. And I'm a gift to myself. So focus on that first name. Don't get lost in the other names that the Adam and Eve gave you. It's like, my name is Kuta Kinte, right? Okay, we know all about slavery here. You want to take your first name that you gave yourself, and you want to become the I am, and affirm it and declare it and be the authority of it. Emancipate yourself from this game. All right. All right, guys, I love you. I will see some of you at 1, and others I will see you next week. Bye.